Before I go on, remember, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, do that. Um, basically, follow me on Twitter. You got it. Follow me on Facebook so you're kept up to date with what I have to say. Okay. That was my attempt to be funny in my intro. General strike. You don't often hear the term general strike in the U.S. We're not that kind of a country, but the history will tell you otherwise. One of the very first general strikes that's known in history took place in the United States on May 1st, 1886, when over 100,000 people walked off their job protesting for the 8-hour workday. It would take decades for it to happen, but we sort of won that battle. When you think of general strikes, especially in the West, you may think of maybe places like Europe, and most particular France, for example. They do general strikes a whole lot, and I remember even as recent as 1995, there were I think it was the center right government, Jacques Chirac, I believe it was, did some mild austerity measures, and the trade unionists and the factory workers and the public sector workers and all kinds of workers just walked off their jobs, and they were like, we're not taking it. And the government was like, okay, you win. You win. Just leave us alone. Just leave us alone. And sometimes I know that some of my commentaries tends to be very, very Eurocentric, and I understand that. But let's not just talk about Europe right now. Right now, May the 11th, 2021. You got the government of Colombia down in South America, and the people are protesting against austerity measures. The government claimed that they went too generous and too much. They did too much to take care of COVID, and now they're asking people they're wanting to raise taxes and cut back on services in Colombia, and the people are like, "No way, Jose, we don't want that. I mean, we didn't ask for COVID. COVID happened, and we have a right to be compensated if we're going to get laid off from work, and we're going to have economically troubling times for ourselves as a result." So the people in Colombia are getting it. Now, here in the United States, returning back to the United States, although they weren't general strikes per se, there was a lot of striking that went on in the 1930s in the New Deal. A lot of union organizing that were taking place, and as the unions got stronger, well, lo and behold, you started seeing more middle class people started to rise. And it was such a damn good idea that the unions remained relatively powerful. Now, they weren't as powerful, let's say, that like this Nordic countries where they're 90% of the workforce, but the United States did reach about a third of the workforce being unionized, about 33% of the workforce, roughly from the time of the 1930s till the 1970s, on and off, that the unions were more or less one third of the workforce. And guess what? The average man and woman could graduate from high school or college at that time, depending on what kind of jobs that were available for whatever. Somebody could go and get a job in the manufacturing base or a firm or what have you for 25, 30 years. And with one income, one bread earner could cover a spouse, cover your children, get a nice home. You got decent medical benefits, a decent retirement. You had enough to pay your bills, pay your mortgage, put savings in the bank, and had a little bit of money to play around with. And that was the arrangement for many years after World War II. I would say from after World War II all the way till around 1980 when it came into a screeching halt with the presidency of Ronald Reagan. Yeah, I know that there were some economic troubling times in the 1970s due to the oil embargo in the Middle East, a situation where Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Jimmy Carter were not at fault, and I'm being pretty damn bipartisan about that. None of the three presidents were at fault for what happened to them in the 1970s. It was just the most wrong time for anybody to be in the Oval Office to try to do what needed to be done because of the oil embargo over there in the Middle East. But Ronald Reagan came along and unfortunately, changed the national conversation to the point that we're still living in the Reagan era 41 years later. 40 years later. He was sworn in January 81. So we're going to say 40 years later, we're still living in the Reagan era. Reagan changed the conversation about the role of government. That government does not dare to help people. They're more in a way than anything else. And the only way to restore America's greatness is just to stop relying on the fact that the government can help you. And what it has done, along with that mentality and the busting up of unions and globalizing the economy with the free trade, and not fair trade, but free trade, which free trade ain't free, by the way, and things like that, we started to see an economic race toward the bottom, and the middle class started to decline and fade and fade and fade away. Now, I'm not being a partisan hack about this. Ronald Reagan, followed by George Bush Sr. Bill Clinton came along and adopted some of the bullshit of Ronald Reagan, and NAFTA came into being with predominantly Republican support in Congress, but a handful of corporate Democrats, where the DLC was starting to be a thing, the Democratic Leadership Council. A lot of good-paying union jobs started to disappear. So the union started to decline during the Clinton years as well. You add to things like temporary agencies that would be a buffer zone in a lot of places with employment in the 1990s. So, in other words, um, there was no the equal playing field was gotten up, balled up, thrown out of the window. Don't need it. That became the mantra of government and corporations. So the you had temp agencies that was a barrier. So not to give people a chance to have a living wage and have benefits or what have you, and it was there as a way to try to put a stop to that. So again, the continued race to the bottom. And then Glass-Steagall was abolished in 1999. The one of the big reforms of the New Deal that police corporations. Well, when you got rid of that in 1999, and then George W. Bush came in and did the deregulation on hyper overdrive, and that caused the housing bubble in 2007 and 2008. That situation, also eviscerated the middle class even more. And then you had a Barack Obama who came in promising hope and change, but he was scared to be called. He was scared that the Tea Party was going to call him a socialist. Well, you know what? They call him a socialist anyway, even though he governed almost to the right of Ronald Reagan. Remember, Barack Obama was a fan of Ronald Reagan. He admired Ronald Reagan. Never forget that. So, some progressive, some socialist he turned out to be. Barack Obama was barely a liberal, um, very ineffectual. And you add to that the neocon wars that took place because of the Bush Cheney doctrine. And, you had that, and you had medical inflation. And again, Barack Obama was too chicken shit to take on the insurance company, too chicken shit to take on the right wing Republicans in Congress, and would not even take on the corporatist Democrats because he was a corporate Democrat himself. Needless to say, all this led to the presidency of Donald Trump eventually. And thing about it is, Donald Trump campaign on the frustrations of the American people, the working class, and everything. Issues that were really the pet issues of the Democrats. But the Democrats were so used to being a corporatist party, and the establishment Republicans did not know what hit them with Donald Trump. That many people thought a new realignment was going to take place. But once Donald Trump came in, although he campaigned some time to the left of Hillary Clinton on some critical issues, once he came in there, the neocon wars continued, the outsourcing continued, and the stagnation of wages and the race to the bottom continued. And so there we are, with, with basically going into last year with the COVID virus that took place, and a lot of people got laid off work. A lot of people, were, if not evicted, were going to be evicted. Couldn't pay their rent. I mean, it was a terrible situation, and it disrupted the economy and all that. So, what was the response to COVID? Well, some of the good things that came out of this COVID crisis, and I don't not trying to make it out like COVID was a good thing because it wasn't, but at least there was some stimulus checks that came out to the people, and unemployment came out to the people. The unemployment last year was pretty generous, and unemployment is not quite as generous today as it was last year. But having that said, we're the unemployment has done something quite unusual to the economic situation in this country that might possibly change the national conversation. What am I talking about? Well, apparently there's a lot of jobs available. A lot of jobs are available out there. We don't suffer from unemployment. We're needing people to go to work, and because there was only 200,000 people in this cycle that were supposed this quarter that were employed and was supposed to be, I think it's like over a million or something like that. Joe Biden looked like he had egg on his face on what's going on. Well, I'll tell you what's going on. And Mitch McConnell and a lot of establishment Republicans and Tucker Carlson even said it the other day. And you're hearing right wing talking heads talk about this, and they talk about it like it's a bad thing. It ain't a bad thing. And what I'm talking about is that they're complaining that these people are drawing unemployment and they're making more money living it up on unemployment than they were while they were working. Well, here's the thing. Why should people go back to work when they're going to be paid less and abused by management, abused by the bosses, abused by the corporations? Yes, yes, I say live it up. I am glad that you want to call this free stuff. Fine. I am glad people are getting free stuff for a change. We weren't getting free stuff for a long time. The only people who were getting free stuff was the military industrial complex, corporate America, and the 1%. They're the ones that were getting free stuff. None of us were getting free stuff. I am glad that there are people, the ordinary people, are starting to get free stuff because we're all owed free stuff. I have no problem. We live, we are born, we live, we are owed free stuff. Yes. And here's another thing. Yeah, you make it more profitable to work than to be on unemployment and to be on welfare. Problem solved. It's an easy solution. But no, can't do that. You got to go back to work and be treated like shit because that's what made America great. That's the mentality of the Mitch McConnells of this world. And you know what? The fact that Mitch McConnell's pissed off about it makes me happy. It gives it. I almost am going to come in my pants because Mitch McConnell is pissed off that people are getting free stuff, free stuff. Anyway, here's the thing. if you can get unemployment and you're not happy with your job, you can get unemployment. Granted that everything is legal. You slash your ties, you slash your T's, you dot your I's. You go ahead, get that unemployment, relax, and just wait and just enjoy that unemployment. You got my blessing. Do it, because this is an unintentional general strike. And I would take an unintentional general strike over people just rolling over and playing dead any day. I remember last year, Jimmy Dore was talking about a general strike. I heard some of the other talking heads talking about general strike. Young Turks, Kyle Kalinske, Amazing Atheist, Tommy Figueredo from Humanist Report. All these talking heads on the left, they were talking about on the line, the bread tubers. They were talking about let's have a general strike. Let's go on. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, and then that kind of faded away, and then we all got worked up again over forced to vote, forced to vote, forced to vote. Well, I still think that forcing the vote would have been a good idea if it could have been done. But needless to say, let's go back to a general strike. Let's make it official. Let's say let's have a general strike in this country, and walk off the jobs, get that unemployment, live it up, and wait, and because they're going to, if this keeps long enough, they're going to have to raise your wages to make it attractive for you to go back to work. And we're just not supposed to go back to work and get $15 an hour. Yeah, $15 an hour at a minimum. If you're making 7.25 an hour, yeah, you should demand 15 hours. You should demand 15 hours to return to work. But let's not just end up with $15 an hour and be done with it. We need to demand the union rights, meaning pass the Protect the Right to Organize Act, so the unions can make a comeback and you can wipe out right to work in the 27 states that has right to work. Get rid of right to work right now and make every job that's unionized a closed shop. That if you work in a union company, you have to go and join the union. So, and I don't care what people say. Well, that's not right. That's authoritarian. Well, it's authoritarian for you to have to go to work on a schedule that you don't want to have to go to. It's authoritarian that you have to wear a stupid uniform in some cases, or go by this kind of rules and regulation. But oh no, unions. Oh no, oh, we got to get rid of those unions. Those unions, the unions. And I hear people like Mark Levin a few weeks ago talking about, yeah, 90% of the workforce is not unionized, and we like it that way. Oh, speak for yourself, Mark Levin, you piece of shit. No, I want a union job. I had a union job, and it was taken away from me 3 years ago. And I live in this fucking state, that North Carolina, where union jobs are not around. I'm sorry. Unions. The mentality against unions pisses me off in this country. Because you just look at the Nordic countries that have 90% of the workforce unionized. They have the highest standard of living in the world. We are as backwards opposite. We end up having 90% of the workforce in this country non-unionized, and you see an economic race toward the bottom. Oh, let's also demand Medicare for all. We have medical inflation. Now, if you think about it, with medical inflation, due to medical inflation, we have people going bankrupt. And if they're not going bankrupt, some people are dying because of that medical inflation, because they can't afford the proper care they need. That indicates that we got a pretty shitty healthcare system. And the only way we're going to solve this pretty shitty healthcare system is to either look toward Canada that has Medicare for all, national health insurance, or go full-blown socialized medicine as done in Great Britain with their National Health Service, which to me, the National Health Service is the most intelligent way to do this. And for all the people like, we don't want that system that they got in England. Well, let me tell you that system in England saved a right winger's life by the name of Boris Johnson, who had COVID, and he says that the National Health Service is the heartbeat of Great Britain. So, what does it tell you? And I'll repeat this again. What does it tell you that Boris Johnson is to the left of Joe Biden, to the left of Kamala Harris, to the left of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Bill and Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama on the question of healthcare, on the healthcare? You know, I mean, yeah, those Democrats are intersectional and all that. I get that, but on the healthcare questions, at least Boris Johnson is not opposed to National Health Service. Democrats, what's your fucking excuse? It's a shame that you're going to be to the right of Boris Johnson of the UK. Really? We need federal jobs guarantee, infrastructure, rebuild our infrastructure. We need this. And you know what? We need to do this because we need to restore common sense to the economy. We need to bring back the fundamentals of social democracy. We need to take that discredit, that national conversation Ronald Reagan brought to America 40 years ago. That conversation is long gone overdue. We need to get rid of that conversation, and we need to bring back a new conversation, the conversation of social democracy. And the media and our establishment politicians do not want to discuss things like job guarantees and Medicare for all and unions. You know what that means? That means if the media and establishment politicians and do not want to talk about health care for all and unions and living wage, it means we double up and we scream this conversation in their face until they comply. And while we're at it, if you want to worry about how to pay for stuff for the fiscal conservatives out there, and maybe the libertarians and some paleo conservatives will get on board with this because they're the better conservatives as opposed to the neocons that dominates the Republican Party. They're the majority. Get us out of these damn wars right now. And I'm not just talking about Republicans. Corporate Democrats are just as bad as the neocon Republicans on the issue of war. We need to get out of these damn wars across the ocean. Withdraw from Afghanistan, withdraw from Iraq, withdraw from everywhere around the world, and return home. And not in the dark ways that someone like Donald Trump talk about America first. But we will need an America. We need to be America first in the sense that we look out for Americans, make sure all Americans have health care, make sure every American has access to a unionized living wage job, make sure that our American infrastructure is modernized, make sure that we have free college, make sure that we restore common sense, make sure that we can be like all the other advanced capitalist democracies in the world that took what was good about socialism and implemented it in their systems and made their countries a pretty damn good place to live. And we need that here. We need that here yesterday. We need that here tomorrow. We need that here and now. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you were triggered, tough, comment anyway. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you're passionate about something, to go ahead and create a platform and utilize it because we're the muckrakers of our time. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy. Peace and class struggle yesterday, class struggle today, class struggle tomorrow, and class struggle until we achieve full and economic and social justice for all. And we could do that right now by focusing on the general strike. Let's have it. Let's get rid of the culture war. Let's have a general strike.